as children, we experience things energetically and physically. We can't really process it with our brain, with our minds, with our, we don't have the capacity to process the information about what was happening to us, no matter how bad or good. It's just that the ability to process events or words or experiences was not there. So all we have is some kind of physical bodily sensation, reaction, and that is very strong, and that stays with us forever in our lives.
Why do you think so many people carry childhood wounds without realizing it?
Well, I guess it's all I don't particularly love the language around it, say, calling it wounds and traumas, because it's not all that dark. Essentially, it's just that when we are small children, we can't really process the information, and we don't have this ability, as we know. For example, a child doesn't even have the ability to consider multiple perspectives until the age of 4 or 5. So a child can only be feeling what he or she is feeling, and he or she is the center of the universe. And sometimes the child starts feeling something like the other person is the center of the universe. So there's never two perspectives. It's always one at a time. So the child might think, okay, I'm the center of the universe, I want this. And then he sees his mother being upset, and then he fully considers her perspective, completely forgets about his, and then she's upset, and he kind of feels like, oh, he's this evil thing that upset the mother. And like, it's quite interesting, quite complex how it works. The reason why it stays within us for so long is because we never had the capacity to properly understand what actually happened to us, especially around things that could be kind of emotionally intense. We didn't have the capacity to process these emotions. We didn't have the capacity to understand, oh, that's what happened. It wasn't my fault. It was just my mom doing this or my dad doing that. Or like the fact that my parents got divorced is not my fault. A child cannot think in these categories yet. All they can feel is like, it's a visceral feeling. It's the feeling on the level of their physical bodies, which is, I was wrong, something is wrong, and that makes me wrong. And then they might grow up carrying that feeling of being wrong for the next 60 years of their lives. And that would impact all sorts of things, and they would never know where it comes from. The problem with childhood traumas or wounds or energetic imprints, let's call it this way, experiences, is that we can't really heal it through the normal therapy. Because just talking about it and understanding, oh, you were 5 and your parents were arguing and somehow you felt guilty, just speaking about this does not actually heal that inner child. So the actual concept of inner child I learned a lot later. This is where I first started to sort of discover the concept of parts work. So parts work and understanding parts work, dealing with my own parts and meeting them and integrating them, has been the most profound and the most, I guess, the most powerful shift in my personal life. And this is why I'm being so annoying, I guess, to a lot of my clients today, because I'm like, look, we need to do this stuff, because without meeting and integrating your parts, especially those parts that have been created in childhood, without looking them in the face, without speaking to them, without actually feeling physically into them, we won't be able to fully know who we are, essentially. It's that deep. You really don't know who you are until and unless you have understood all those experiences that shaped you. But actually, those experiences were never you, right? Those experiences kind of distorted the real you, so to say. So in that example, that feeling that this child was guilty has distorted the flow of love and the flow of his own self-realization in this world and in his life. Once he has integrated that, then suddenly he's like, oh, I don't need to be guilty, actually. I actually want to do this. One thing for certain, without integrating hundreds of parts, I would never be where I am today. Like never, never. And I'm not saying I'm some kind of billionaire or whatever, but I'm actually happy and fulfilled, and I'm doing things that I believe in. And that would not have been possible without my personal journey with parts work and inner child work at all. Like, no chance.
For someone new to this, what is the first gentle step towards reconnecting with their inner child?
There's about, I don't know, a million of meditations on that in on YouTube. So why inner child is also very important. Another thing that basically the first inner child that we will encounter in our lives would be in our heart space. And you cannot have a spiritual life without opening your heart and without connecting to your heart energies. So if your heart is still grieving over something that your child didn't get, that means your heart still has this very sad little child within it. And basically it's impossible to open the heart without that, without integrating that child, without speaking to him, her. So one of the first steps people do, usually they go into this meditative state through one of meditations they can find on YouTube. Well, there's many really good ones out there. And they connect with their inner child, a little boy or girl who lives in their heart space. And the first thing to face is what have been neglected or abandoned, and what does this child feel? Does he or she feel sad or lonely or in any way neglected? And in most cases, the answer will be yes. And what does she actually feel? Like, does she actually want to do this job? Is she actually happy with this man? Is she actually happy with this life she's living? And your inner child is just a part of you. It's not the fullness of you. But this part that I'm talking about now is the one that lives in your heart. And that's the one that knows quite a lot of answers, that has a lot of answers to indicate what your actual needs are, and especially which needs have been neglected. So that's a good place to start. Go within your heart space, connect to that child within, and listen to him or her. What are they crying about? What do they want? What do they need? So that would be a good first step. Without going into traumas or whatnot, just that one thing that will already move and shift the situation, and it will already help to unlock certain things within.
How has this practice changed your relationships or sense of self-worth?
I guess I'm one of those typical representative of a woman in the Western world, that we always seem to believe that we can only be loved when we achieve things, when we do things, when we achieve things, when we, I don't know, become someone. And I used to believe that subconsciously myself. So many years of, self-improvement work and self-help books and God knows how many courses, I still experienced in almost every relationship I had that my partner would not fully accept me for who I was, and certainly would not fully love me for who I was. They would always be almost like cutting off some parts of who I am and only loving the parts that kind of worked for them. And I guess it's quite typical for quite a lot of people to be this kind of relationships. And then what comes first? But me, myself, was happy to cut those bits of me off and kind of hide them and only present certain parts of me in that relationship to begin with. So that other person could only see that and fall in love with that, which wasn't the fullness of me. I felt not seen by the other person. And only after I have integrated a number of inner children, because there's loads of inner children within us, it's not just one. Basically, yeah, after I've done that, I've started to actually see and accept myself fully, and then my partner also, well, I started to attract those partners who would also see me for this big complex thing that I am, rather than this one facet that I presented so nicely on dating. So how parts actually happen? Our inner children, and rather those parts that we need to integrate, they happen when we have certain events which contradicted with our concept of being loved and accepted by a parent. A silly example, like your mom said, quiet, like you need to be quiet. And this is the moment when a child considers that loud part of themselves kind of bad and unacceptable, because the child's first need is survival, and survival of a child is impossible without attachment to the mother, without the approval of this mother, without the love of this mother. The child cannot physically survive. So this is the moment where the split happens. The child decides, okay, this loud part of me needs to go and be hidden, and I present this other part, which is the one my mom loves. And literally every single part that we have within us would stem from something like this. Could be a lot more traumatic thing. It could be something very, very light, like the one I've mentioned. In a more traumatic event, especially if it was for a long time, there could be a few children kind of splitting and going into the shadow, right? Let's say there is a big argument in the family and the child feels angry, but being angry is bad because being angry means your mom won't love you. And this is the angry part, the angry child within a person who is now in the shadows. But the problem with these parts that are hidden, as you've already, I guess, know, is that they're not actually, it's not like they don't exist. They're still there. So every now and again, that child, let's say it's a man, and whenever he gets drunk, he feels this weird sense of anger overcoming him, and he just wants to go in a fight, and he wants to do something. And the reason why this happens, well, could be many reasons, but in our particular example, could be because that angry boy whom his mom could not love, in his opinion, right? Mom has no idea about this. Because that angry boy needed to be hidden and suppressed. So whenever the situation kind of rises, like he gets drunk or he gets triggered, that angry child raises up and kind of like lashes out. And that can really harm their lives, right? And that also creates this feeling of the person's like, oh, I've got this really weird part of them which is fully unacceptable and which is horrendous and I hate it. And they start feeling really bad about themselves as a result. And it impacts their relationships, their work, their everything, right? So this is when the whole kind of integration comes into place. Seeing that part, understanding where it came from, feeling into that part and integrating it back by accepting it, understanding it's just this part, like this. And also this angry child will not actually have to be so angry once it's loved and hugged and accepted. The only reason it was angry because it was suppressed. This is like the dynamics, I guess. This is the mechanism how it works.